I was flying around an area called Taunton in Somerset, and I had a simulated target run I was going to do. So I'd been given a target to pretend to bomb, and I was flying at 250 feet, so quite low, and about 450 miles an hour, so quite quickly. So I was about to commence my bombing run. So usually at that stage we didn't have any fancy computers in the aircraft. So all I had to navigate was a map, like a walking map, an ordnance survey map, a stopwatch, and a compass. So I found a lake, which I think was my initial point to guide me onto a heading to then find my target. And found my lake, great, and I restarted my stopwatch because I knew if I flew this heading at that speed, 2 minutes later, my target should be there, this very small barn, I think. Found the lake, started the stopwatch, I looked to my right, and then I looked in front of me and I saw two huge black things coming towards me, and then bang, and this huge explosion happened in the cockpit. And the first thing I remember was lots of noise, because I'm now flying a cabriolet at 450 miles an hour. And lots of wet, just lots of fluid around me. And instinctively, we started to pull the aircraft up. And the first thing I did was I stuck my hand up into the airstream and put my thumb up. And I'm so glad I did, because John in the back seat, there is what we call a blast screen between the front cockpit and the back cockpit of a Hawk. So it's this sort of perspex screen. And all John could see was red from blood, which was a mixture of my blood. And the two things that hit me turned out to be two ravens, so 5 kilogram ravens. So if you can imagine a 5 kilogram weight hitting you at 450 miles an hour, it's going to cause a lot of damage. So these two birds came in, and it caused a lot of carnage, obviously. So John couldn't see anything but blood. He pulled up, and when he saw my thumb go up, he thought, okay, Dave's alive, at least, in the front cockpit. And then the next thing he did was typically when you get a bird strike, which happens quite often for jets flying at low level, and I've had a few in my career, this was the worst one though. One of the first things you do is pull away from the ground, and then you check your engine to see if you still got your engine. And in the Hawk, we only had one engine. So John looks down and he looks at the engine gauge, and he sees it reading 0. And he says, oh, we've lost the engine, and we're at low level, we're going to lose energy very quickly. So usually when that happens, you may have an attempt at relighting the engine, and if not, you're going to have to eject. So get out of the aircraft using the ejection seat. So John, as he saw my thumb, the way he describes it to me is he had his hand on the handle, and basically we had a command ejection system in the Hawk. So if the back seater pulled a handle, the front seat would go as well. Okay. So the supervisory pilot would have control to take both out. And when John saw my thumb, he kind of paused for a second, and he said, well, hang on, there's a lot of noise, and there was a lot of wind noise, but it feels like there's engine noise as well. And we're not losing height very quickly. And he realized we had the engine, which was amazing, because if John had pulled the handle, he would have decapitated me, because the canopy in the Hawk has plastic explosive running down it. It's called miniature detonation cord, MDC. And what happens in the ejection is when you pull the ejection handle, the first thing it fires is a plastic explosive to get rid of the canopy so the seat can go up through. That cord had wrapped around my neck.
Oh my goodness.
With the bird coming in, it interfered with it. So if he had pulled it, my head would have gone, would have been the first thing, then my body would have gone after that. So my thumb, thankfully, made John pause and stop and reflect, and thankfully that didn't happen. So anyway, following that, so Monday morning's not going well. And following that, John pulls us up to about 3,000 feet. He takes control of the aircraft. I'm in quite a bad way. I've lost my visors, my oxygen mask has been ripped off, blood everywhere. So we pulled up to 3,000 feet. We managed to, we could shout at each other below 200 miles an hour. We could hear each other just. And John said to me, Dave, I've put out a mayday. We're going to land at a base called Yeovilton, which is a Royal Navy base in Somerset. But I can't land the airplane. I can't see anything. There's too much blood. So you're going to have to land it. Ooh. So I found Yeovilton and I spoke to air traffic control as best I could. My mask was kind of half off. It wasn't particularly good. I think John did quite a lot of the talking for us. and I did a straight and approach and I landed the airplane at Yeovilton. And at that point, there's fire engines and ambulances following us down the runway. We pulled over, I pulled the aircraft over, shut down, and obviously there'd been a lot of adrenaline flowing in my body. I think from the actual instant of the birds hitting us to landing was about 12 minutes in total. And as soon as I brought the aircraft to a halt and shut the engine down, the adrenaline kind of disappeared and I felt a lot of pain. My face was in a bit of a mess, my chest was in a bit of a mess. When the fire teams came up to see me in the cockpit, they said, "Oh," because they saw the plastic detonation, the miniature detonation cord, the plastic explosive around my neck. So that took a while to cut that out and get that safe. And then I was pulled out and I was taken to hospital after that. And I still, to this day, have the scars on my chest where the raven, one of the ravens had come through with such force that it penetrated my chest. But yeah, so that was an interesting day. But such was the training and such was the drive and the resilience that I was flying a week later. I was back in the cockpit a week later, continuing again. So, and that didn't feel like, that didn't feel unusual at the time. It was just part of this is the game we're in, it's dangerous, but hey, it's a dangerous profession, and the training's been so extensive, and you've been conditioned so much to be resilient. And yeah, I went back in and I started flying a week later.
A week later?
Yeah.
So the putting your thumbs up was reflex, almost like muscle memory, based on your training. How do you stay calm through that, though?
I think the training has a lot to do with it. In terms of, I mean, that's extreme. So we do a lot of emergency training, and we, even from a very early stage in our flying careers, there's a lot of emergency training, but also in challenging situations as well. And that breeds a level of calmness and procedure. So if you are dealt with, if you encounter a problem, then there's a very methodical way to deal with it.